All right, next up is wind. So let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of wind. So wind, this map is a good illustration of where wind energy is best utilized. And so you see that those spots down there around Cheyenne, those dark areas are good locations for wind. Other parts of the state where it's white, there's no really wind benefits at all in the United States. Generally speaking, the best wind state as a whole across the entire region is up here. North Dakota with a little bit of South Dakota, but North Dakota has good, consistent, slow-flowing wind, and so it can be maximized for probably the most. But there's other regions of the United States where wind energy just isn't even a possibility. These are wind generators, which we'll talk about here moving forward in farmland, and then there are some that are also capable of being put out into the ocean. And so you see that on these coastline pictures where that you could generate them in the water. And so wind power in many ways is very promising source of energy. There's abundance of wind in places. It's inexhaustible. The wind's going to blow forever. It's widely distributed, it's cheap, it's clean, and there's no greenhouse gases being produced. So as a result, wind is a viable option for lots of things. It is the fastest growing energy source around. It has slowed significantly since the price of natural gas has dropped, but it's still a good energy source or an alternative energy source here in the United States. Even though that's true, the vast majority of the world's potential wind power has never been utilized, and it remains untapped. And so it still has a potential for quite a bit more growth. Capturing 20% of wind energy at the world's best energy sites could meet all of the world's demands, which means there's lots of energy out there in the form of wind. And if we could just harness some of it, we'd get all the things we need in life. But like I said, the vast majority of it hasn't been captured. When it comes to wind, wind is generated by wind turbines, long bladed windmills basically, that spin and create use an electrical generator to create electricity. Those wind turbines are then placed in clusters called wind farms, and those farms generate the electricity you need. Now those can be regular wind farms, or they can be offshore wind farms like this picture over here. So what is wind? It's basically indirect solar energy. So the sun, the heating of the Earth's surface, is what creates wind, and that's how we make this process work. Ooh, my picture's gone. That's sad. So, wind electricity, important steps. It's capable of becoming a major contributor to the U.S. supply over the next 30 years, depending on its economic feasibility relative to other things. And so currently we're at low prices in fossil fuels, and so this isn't happening as of right now. But as those prices go back up, you'll see that wind generation will start to become important again around the United States. In the end, the goal is to try to increase wind energy up to 20%, or increase it by 20% by 2030. That's the Department of Energy's goal. We'll see if they can live up to those expectations. So here's some graphs showing the rapid growth in it. So this is the growth over the last several decades in wind usage. The size of wind turbines has changed dramatically. This is a full-size commercial airline, and you can see how much larger the largest. These are like 10 megawatt generators, how big they've become. These propellers are 150 foot long in some cases. That is about 5 times taller than the gymnasium ceiling. So they've become huge in the past years. And here are the countries who have been using more and more wind over the last about 10 years. You see that China has invested largely in wind. The United States is next, followed by Germany, and then it goes down from there. So it is a growing industry in the United States. How do we make things happen? Well, it's a global industry. It's not just here in the United States. At times, we've used it a lot. So 20% of the renewable energies, Iowa, has a lot of energy that's generated from renewable sources, 20%. Of that, the vast majority is wind. They have crops and fields that are set up to maximize that, and so they're doing it quite a bit. They're top in the nation, Iowa is, but other ones will grow and change with time. Here are the advantages and disadvantages of wind use. So the advantages of it is you get a high yield. It's very efficient. The cost isn't bad. The cost of the electricity once it's made is pretty cheap, and it's getting better all the time. It has very low environmental impact. It doesn't produce CO2. You can construct them fairly rapidly. It's easy to expand and add on to wind farms. They can be located offshore, which is beneficial in many ways. And the land below the turbines can still be used for livestock and crops and all kinds of other things. Disadvantages. You need steady wind. Inconsistent wind really tears up the equipment, which we don't like. A lot of times you need backup system because wind isn't always the best. And if the wind isn't busy one certain days, you need something else to generate electricity. You're still using a lot of plastics and composites that need oil for their production. The environmental costs are not included in the project, of course. It takes a lot of land to produce a nice wind farm. Visual pollution. This is a cute word. I always think this is funny. It's not aesthetically pleasing. A lot of people don't like the looks of them. They do generate noise, which some people aren't big fans of. This weird little humming thing. It's kind of psycho. And then there have been many birds that have flown into the wings and killed them. And so that's always a concern. So that's it for wind. Peace, love.